2 years ago, I began my rewatch of what is arguably one of PA Works' best works. I never actually finished it because life stuff got in the way. Today, I'm bringing you the video on an anime I promised. It's one of my all-time favorites because of the complexities of the story and the representation of ourselves, but at two different points in time. It's a visual and musical masterpiece. Nagi no Asukara, aka A Lull in the Sea. Before I get into the body of this thing, if you're enjoying the content I put out, past, present, or future, consider hitting subscribe. I promise I don't bite. YouTube is my dream, but right now it's just a hobby, unfortunately. Want to help make it my career and see more frequent videos like this? Click this thing right here. With that out of the way, can we all take a moment to think about how hot this summer has been? If you're just as tired of the heat as I am, sit back, relax, and let the frighteningly cold waters of this anime cool you off. Nagi no Asukara, NagiAsu for short, is no walk in the park or kiddie pool. It's an anime filled with raw emotion and hearts desperately seeking love where love hasn't gone before. Not only that, the repercussions of steadfast and spur-of-the-moment decisions have such dramatic effects on this anime that it chills you right down to the bone. NagiAsu isn't an anime that you would expect to have such dramatic moments, despite its harmless and serene appearance in the first handful of episodes plus. As an anime studio with a lot of popular and well-known hits under their belt, PA Works took NagiAsu and dove straight into the deep end. But what makes this anime so incredible are its Japanese influences. Namely, its connections to the sea and worship of the sea god are most notable. In fact, much of the story behind the anime, offerings to the sea god as a way of saying thank you and prosperity, can be directly linked back to ancient Japanese culture where many coastal towns and villages would send offerings out to sea for the sea god. The Ofune Hiki is an example of this, but this is also where the anime differs in its approach to the way people would show gratitude and ensure a harmonious relationship with the gods and sea. Japanese rituals and festivals today, and even in ancient times, did not use human sacrifices during festivals of the sea, which is where the anime deviates from official history. Japanese festivals were, and still are, heavily based in Shintoism and Buddhism, which are mostly peaceful belief systems. There is little historical evidence that back up the sacrifice of a maiden to the sea god to ensure peace and prosperity, so it's actually a bit of a shock to see PA Works run with the idea of a human sacrifice in the anime. Perhaps due to the differences between the two worlds represented within the people of the sea and those who live on the land, this is the reason why the anime runs with the idea of living sacrifice. The occurrence of the Saltflake snow, however, is a symbol of the sea god's displeasure with the faltering belief from the people of the land and serves as a warning. But what makes something so harmless as snow is the reason behind it. But I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Let's talk about the dynamics between the people of the sea and of the land. As with most civilizations, there exists strife within the world of Shioshishio and Oshiooshi. The people of Shioshishio, the sea, and Oshiooshi, the land, do not get along for several reasons. 1. Cultural differences. The residents of Shioshishio and Oshiooshi have vastly different ways of life. The underwater village embraces a connection to the sea creatures, and the sea god's blessing, while the surface village has become distanced from the sea and has lost its connection to the supernatural elements. These cultural differences contribute to misunderstandings and prejudices between the two communities. The residents of Oshiooshi have gradually faltered in their belief of the sea god, but failed to see the reasoning behind the residents of Shioshishio. Like all ancient cultures, newer and more recent ideas and beliefs eventually take hold, and entire ways of life are eventually forgotten. 2. The sea god's blessing. The people of Shioshishio have the ability to live underwater and communicate with sea creatures due to the sea god's blessing. They might view themselves as spiritually connected to the sea and hold a sense of superiority over those who live on the surface. Conversely, the people of Oshiooshi might view this blessing as a source of envy or even distrust, further straining relations. However, it's because of this strife that the residents of both towns harbor ill will toward one another, both failing to see the bigger picture, and that is the beginning of the sea god's blessing. It's not until the Saltflake snow begins to fall that they realize the repercussions of their actions and faltering faith. 3. Fear and resentment. The sea god's blessing and the tradition of sacrificing maidens to the sea god in Shioshishio can be perceived as threatening or strange by the surface villagers. This could lead to fear, resentment, and mistrust towards the underwater community, as these practices are not understood and might be seen as dangerous or unreasonable. When the children from Shioshishio, Hikari and friends, decide to create an Ofune-hiki and rekindle the traditions from ancient times, relations slowly begin to warm, but the idea of sacrificing maidens to the sea god is what propels the anime from this point on. Does sacrifice mean a permanent absence, or is it only temporary, and will it even be enough to appease the sea god? 4. Change in beliefs. Over time, the people of Oshiooshi have drifted away from their sea-related traditions and beliefs. The people of Shioshishio might see this as a rejection of their heritage and a betrayal of the sea god's favor. The disconnect between the two communities' beliefs and values could lead to tension, and that's exactly what happens. Two sides begin blaming each other, and without much in the way of actual solutions, everyone feels stuck, trying to come to terms with their faith and what it is they believe. This is observed behavior throughout most of human history, and it's no different here. The people of Oshiooshi have fallen from grace in a way, and it's this very representation of a metaphorical paradise that they were, in a way, expelled from. Once the Saltflake snow begins to fall and the people of Shioshishio fall into hibernation, the anime takes a dramatic turn. The people of Oshiooshi don't realize the dependence they have upon the residents of the sea, and that in order for the sea god to restore his blessing upon them, the two sides will have to get along or continue to suffer the economic, social, and emotional impacts of their actions. It's thanks to a special coating called Enna that the people of Shioshishio have on their skin that they're able to leave the sea at all. They're able to enjoy their lives just as the residents of Oshiooshi have, and in that sense, they really are not any different than everyone else. These same individuals harbor emotion and pain just like everyone else. Just because the people of Shioshishio have Enna does not make them less than human. Even Hikari's group of friends are able to attend school on the surface, but when Chisaki decides to stay, once the Saltflake snow begins to fall, it signals an increasingly complex issue. Personal growth and the culmination of her feelings for someone else in Hikari's absence. What is ultimately best for Chisaki becomes the disruptor to what was a solid circle of friends. Her decision to stay on the surface and her feelings for Hikari, despite his feelings for Monika, the only other girl in the group, creates the biggest love triangle that any work of fiction has been able to portray in such emotionally raw detail within the last decade. The falling of the Saltflake snow signals a dramatic turning point in the anime, starting with the hibernation of Shioshishio. As the residents enter a years-long hibernation to protect their bodies from the deteriorating conditions of the sea, life on the surface goes on as normal at first, but the intrusion of colder weather patterns have significant impacts, more than just economic slowdown. Not only is the Saltflake snow a sign of the weakening sea god's blessing, it symbolizes the festering emotions in the hearts of the main characters. Snow, in general, is seen as calming and peaceful, the way it blankets everything in a soft coat of white. The Saltflake snow in this sense is ironic because it symbolizes the exact opposite: emotional turmoil. The anime only exacerbates its pull on the heartstrings of its viewers with each consecutive episode, and when several residents of Shioshishio begin to wake early, this gives Hikari, who also wakes early, the chance to make things right. When he wakes, he's still physically and mentally the age of a junior high student. But Chisaki is already college age. She knows her feelings for Hikari aren't fair, but at the same time, she's waited years for everyone to wake up. She had to move on. When NagiAsu recenters its attention on Hikari and his group of friends while introducing two other characters that have aged since the people of the sea fell into hibernation, it isn't just Chisaki and Monika that play an important part in the overall emotional narrative after their reintroduction. Muna, the daughter of Hikari's older sister, has grown and matured in her own ways as well. She's now the same age as Hikari. She admires his strength, dedication, and kindness despite his occasional hard-headedness and moments that are less than acceptable. Things only get more complicated from here once Kaname similarly confesses his feelings for Chisaki, and Kaname is far more persistent. Truthfully, NagiAsu was more like a love pentagon after it's revealed Sayu, Miyuna's friend, has feelings for Kaname, but Kaname likes Chisaki and Chisaki likes Hikari, who likes Monika. It's an entire emotional chain. After she fell into the sea during the Ofune-hiki, she was taken by the sea god as a sacrifice. The rescue is central to the story as everyone now has to navigate their feelings in an unfamiliar world, but it's this confrontation of feelings that becomes the driving piece of the anime. Tensions between the surface and underwater worlds persist, filling the main characters' fragile hearts with holes that only further challenge the identities they already struggle to grasp. And what will become of the two worlds after Monica is rescued from the watery clutches of the sea god? However, it's also of note that, due to Muna's birth, the conception of a child between someone of the surface and someone of the sea, Muna is significantly more important. It's also notable that the adults can't solve their own issues and instead leave it to the children, forcing them to bridge the gap between the surface and the sea. Challenging, certainly, but it's these very challenges that promote personal growth and foster understanding. While life certainly isn't the same as it was before the Ofune Hiki and the festival, the challenges and convictions each character faces are ultimately what creates such a driving story. Who would have thought that the repercussions of Monica's accidental plunge into the sea would spark such change and be the catalyst for something no one expected? The complexities of the heart and roller coaster that is growing up and maturing. Of course, let's not forget Tsumugu, the boy Chisaki was staying with during Shioshishio's hibernation. Monica becomes the catalyst for a changing world, but it's Chisaki that becomes the emotional catalyst, the driving force of the story. Tsumugu's introspective nature helps ease Chisaki's own uncertainties and emotional struggles, and it's this very thing that leads her to self-discovery, thus prompting a reflection on her feelings. The second half of the anime provides Chisaki with a lot of screen time, whereas Hikari commands much of the attention in the first half. These two worlds are totally different, yet they're both interconnected in ways neither of them fully understand, and it's Tsumugu that lays the foundation for much of the emotional story. Tsumugu's collected nature and interest in Chisaki, not romantically, form a rivalry between the two characters as Hikari harbors feelings for her, and it's these feelings that he must confront or risk losing more than just Chisaki. This doesn't make any one character inherently antagonistic, but it doesn't serve to diffuse tensions. This is just one of the larger emotional triangles the anime is able to create and convey in a way that makes your head spin, but with careful attention, the character dynamics make sense, and what devolves into a complicated sea of emotions has many pathways that connect back to one main source: Hikari. So what is it about this anime that keeps you coming back for more? Why is it so emotionally raw and gritty? There are a few key things that make this anime so unlike anything else before it, or really, after it. 1. This is a PA Works anime, a studio known for creating anime such as Angel Beats and Another. Both of these anime aired before NagiAsu in the fall of 2012, and with two seriously popular hits under their belt, PA Works had every reason to try again, but with a deeper and more methodical story. While there aren't as many members when you look at my anime list for NagiAsu as the two aforementioned titles, NagiAsu has more than twice as many episodes, and this leads me into point 2. With more episodes comes more time to flesh out your world, engage your narrative devices, and develop a plotline. Not only that, it gives the studio ample time to take things slow, and not cram the entire plot of the anime into the last 3 episodes. Given 26 full episodes to create a story that revolves around ancient Japanese traditions, with an ironic twist, NagiAsu can introduce more characters, and give them all ample screen time, which is why they're able to pull off such crazy emotional draws. And finally, the one thing a lot of people don't ever pay much attention to is the soundtrack. Yes, it's usually at a lower volume in most instances, but NagiAsu's OST is loaded with big names. Rei and Yanagi Nagi do the opening, ending, and insert theme performances. Yoshiaki Dewa and Chiaki Ishikawa are two of several main composers, and Mami Kawada is responsible for the lyrics. This is a stacked staff list full of prominent people who make this OST one of the best out there, rivaling, I'd say, several outstanding performances by Sawano Hiroyuki. With such an emotional draw and captive audience, it's no wonder the fans of this anime, myself included, place it in such high regard. The visuals blend a mixture of a tropical seaside village with a winter hellscape come the second half of the anime, a frightening wake-up call that drags everyone back to reality. But there's still a little more I want to talk about. NagiAsu's primary theme is love, but look at the way it affects more than people. The sea god was just as much of a fool to love as everyone else. Hikari, Chisaki, Monica, Kaname, Sayu, Muna, Tsumugu, and even little Akira. The Lady Ojoshi being the first sacrifice to the sea god, she still harbored feelings towards the one she loved on the surface, but her heart longed for the person she still loved, and the sea god knew that. He saw her tears and heard her heart. Sadly, as the story goes, her lover could not bear to be without her and left the world of the living of his own accord. The sea god could not bear to see Lady Oshiooshi in pain and the emotional turmoil she underwent, and as such, the sea god took away her ability to love and returned her to the surface, despite the feelings she also had for the sea god. However, the Lady Oshiooshi symbolizes the gap between the two worlds and the strength that love can have in bridging that gap. The concern of the sea god and his desire to protect his children, humankind, was so strong, however, that eliminating Lady Oshioshi's ability to love was the only way he could think to protect them. It's through the will of the sea god that various events and actions are observed throughout the anime in an effort to guide the characters towards a better outcome and future that is suitable for everyone. It's no surprise he reacted with mixed emotions toward the surface and talent of Oshiooshi after the weakening of the sea god's blessing. And this is reflected in all 26 episodes through the imbalances and changes that are experienced not only on the surface, but in the sea. The interconnectedness of humanity and nature is also symbolized through the relationship with the sea and the comparison of emotions and feelings to that of detritus, the organic decomposition of life in the sea in this instance. The erosion of emotion and troubles melt away into the sea, reflecting the thoughts and hearts of all who find themselves caught in the whirlpool of love, not excluding the sea god. The representation of detritus and NagiAsu is symbolic to the imbalance and turmoil of the sea god's heart and emotions. He is not the antagonist as the anime's main characters may portray him to be up until the very end, where we are given the story of the Lady Oshiooshi by Monica. In this case, it is the perfect narrative device, used to bring attention to the sea god and changing reality, one that threatens the existence of the surface world if things do not change. Finally, and this is my favorite part, in what could be seen as a small allusion to this very anime through another PA Works anime, Aquatope on the White Sand, the soaring paper airplane under a blue sky is a way to signal the end of the narrative, but it potentially goes even deeper than that. Just as an airplane symbolizes humanity's ability to take to heights we'd never be able to achieve otherwise, this paper airplane symbolizes that freedom and exploration. It represents the ability and long-held dream of getting off the ground and taking to heights that leave the physical constraints of the ground behind as we embark on new journeys, adventures, as we venture into the unknown. Secondly, the idea of new beginnings is something I often mentioned in my weekly Aquatope reviews and subsequent review this summer. But the paper airplane could most certainly symbolize that hope and strive for a better future. One that might not exist had certain characters not broken free of their constraints as previously mentioned. In both NagiAsu and Aquatope, the paper airplane signifies the turning point in both the anime and characters' lives, and that hope for a better future. It is the determination to overcome the things that challenge us as we set our prospects on happiness. Similarly, it could also symbolize the launch of the characters' collective feelings and the desire to be connected and unified with one another. It can represent the bonds and experiences shared among the characters in each story along the way, the collective effort to move forward together. The fourth reason being, each of the anime that this paper airplane appears in undergo a time skip. This might indicate that transition or change from life as it once was. Think about the changing attitudes in the second half of NagiAsu and Kukuru's change in attitude at the end of Aquatope, or in perspective or outlook. The paper airplane serves as a metaphor for that change and the release of the past in order to move forward, embracing transformation. Finally, it could symbolize narrative continuity. Given that the same animation studio was involved in both works, the paper airplane might serve as a subtle nod to the studio's world, in this case, Aquatope to NagiAsu. It forms that narrative continuity between the various projects and offers a sense of familiarity and recognition for viewers familiar with PA Works' previous anime projects. Okay, so this is getting a bit long, almost 20 minutes at time of recording, but I can't recommend this anime enough. NagiAsu is a gem of an anime and is worth every waking moment you spend watching it. You could easily write a thesis on the connections between various characters and the way everything is connected through the narrative. Not to mention the narrative devices and plot elements seen through much of the anime. It's crazy to think that Nagi no Asukara is already more than half a decade old. But I think that's attributed to the memorable impact many early 2000s and 2010s anime had on people. Nagi no Asukara being one of the hardest hitting. Do yourself a favor and check this anime out and let me know what you think. Truth be told, I cried at the end and found myself swallowing my own emotions several times prior to. It's a good anime. Trust me.